So brands need to present themselves in a way they want to be recognized and remembered in front of the public, in front of the consumer.
Hi, I'm Annie Siara, your host for Bridge to Chinese Consumers. This video series will bring you market insights, consumer trends, and everything connecting you to Chinese consumers. Our guests are business leaders and specialists. So today we're going to be speaking about how to create a successful brand strategy in China. So I've invited a very special guest today, Yishu Wang. Yishu is the director of Half a World. Welcome, Yishu.
Hello, hi.
So Yishu is a marketing professional helping brands to break into new markets. She has over 10 years of experience in digital marketing in both China and in Europe. Yishu specialises in brand strategy, digital communication, digital marketing execution for global businesses. So Yishu, I really want to pick your brain today and your knowledge and your expertise within this area. Normally when I interview our guests, they are from the West moving into China, but you are actually born in China and you came to the UK to study. So perhaps tell us a little bit more about you and an overview about your career background.
Cool. So I was born and raised in China. I initially came here to the UK to study. I got my master's degree here, and then I just got a job and stayed. I was working in Ogilvy PR in China, back in China before coming here. When I came here, I did media and comms for my master's and just stayed here. So I worked in multiple agencies in the UK. And also I got the chance, because the niche is to work with international brands with their China marketing. I was just so lucky to work with many very well-known global brands, and I've learned so much from my clients as well.
Why did you choose digital marketing helping global brands to bridge to China? Because normally when I speak to, for example, international students, when they come to study in the UK, they generally want to work with a company that targets the consumers here or around Europe. So why did you choose a career path in the other way?
I saw the potential there. It was great, and it was about 10 years ago. I think at that time, a lot of the Western brands, especially luxury and fashion, started to notice the Chinese consumer and China market. They really can't ignore that. So it was the need for brands to actually go to China and do the marketing in China, but not all of them have the access or have the capability to have a team on the ground in China. So, and also there was a lot of misunderstanding about the China market. I think there's still quite a lot. So there's definitely a need there to help international brands. And also there was a huge potential, still is a huge potential for international brands to go to China and to target Chinese consumers.
Can you just describe what you do, who is Half a World, and what you do and the services that you provide?
Half a World, I think it's just sort of in a nutshell, is an international or China marketing consultant. So we help brands and clients to look at where they are, look at what they want to achieve in China, and then come up with a solution from sort of marketing and primarily digital marketing point of view. So that includes usually there's a lot of brand strategy involved, and then digital communications strategy or plan, and also down to digital execution, talking to influencers and seeding and that kind of thing.
I was listening to one of the podcasts that you were asked as a guest on, and it was a podcast, UK Export Advice, and you raised some really interesting points there. So I wanted to touch base on that. And the interesting point is about the differentiation, different consumer and cultural behavior between the rest of the world and in China. So can you give us 3 examples of cultural differences that you have seen between a Chinese and European?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think I can't really speak on behalf of all the Europeans, because there's so many countries within Europe, and then every country cultural-wise, there's also quite lots of differences there. But if we take say UK as an example, I think the first thing coming to my mind when it comes to sort of difference is that relationships in China, and not just romantic relationships, just all the personal relationships in guanxi in China, is just really, really important. I feel like people in China, they're very comfortable mixing work and personal lives, and people are very comfortable sort of showing their appreciations, and the sort of gifting is a very important cultural element in China. So everyone is somewhat connected. That I find is a very big difference from what it's like in the UK. People have their group with work friends and school friends and university friends, and they never mix all those friend groups together.
So let's talk about branding and branding strategy and how to create a successful brand in China. So in your words, what is brand strategy?
If you think every brand is almost like a person, and as a person you want to show the world, your friends and public, you want to have you have an image of yourself. All friends think you as, oh, Annie is ABCD, they have an idea. So for brands, it's the same. So brands need to present themselves in a way they want to be recognized and remembered in front of the public, in front of the consumer. So if a brand wants to be ABCD, then they need to, through their communications, so you need to basically construct a voice for the brand, and then through all the things you do, different marketing channels, through sales channels, through even to internal team management and stuff, just stick to those elements that you want to sort of people to associate with the brand. So so to have a brand strategy is to decide what the brand, the ABCD, what they are, and would that work for the business goal, and also how are we going to present those qualities and factors through different channels and different practices.
So Yishu, let's peel it back. When a brand, if they already have an established brand outside of China and now they want to enter into China, what is, at a very high level, what is the process that you take to develop a brand strategy into China for them?
Right. So the first thing I'll do is to understand their objectives when it comes to China. So that comes to overall business objectives, and then if they have any sort of marketing objectives when it comes to China, and then I'll look at the existing brand strategy if they have any, for their home market, for their domestic market, and then there's really sort of, if not, I'll create a brand strategy from scratch for the China market. But if they already have an existing brand strategy, and then look at the brand strategy and then highlight those bits that I know would resonate well with China's consumer, and then downplay certain parts that I think is probably not relevant or maybe a bit too difficult for Chinese consumers to basically to get it. So it's just to sort of turn up and down a little bit on different elements. I know some brands or some marketing, other people, people in the industry, would tend to say, okay, China is different, it's a different market, you need to change your brand for the market. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think a brand is a brand. Like, you are who you are. You don't want to change who you are. First of all, it's very difficult to basically keep two personalities, right? It will be very, very difficult to do that. And also, Chinese consumers, they travel, they have friends globally. If they see, okay, the brand they see in the China market is like this, and then the brand they see when they travel overseas, the same brand is completely different, it will just cause a lot of confusing. And also, sometimes Chinese consumers, they're not very savvy and very switched on. They might feel like, are you doing this just to try to make money, my money? We don't want to. And also, it's really important to keep the authenticity of the brand. So I never want to. I would never change a brand when it comes to China. So I only just adapt or like make them things that's most relevant for China, and then just really sort of upplay that a little bit.
Keeping that consistency of the branding voice and image, because consumers do travel around, that's really important. But are there any do's and don'ts when it comes to branding strategy into China that is different compared to the rest of the world?
People tend to read, there's a lot of reports and news about China, about Chinese market and Chinese consumer. And a lot of time people tend to forget that Chinese consumers are just human. Overall, everyone wants to just through brand, through all the sort of interactions with brands, they want to feel good about themselves. That's universal. So I think do be flexible when it comes to China, because it is, culturally there's a lot of difference there. And also be patient, be consistent. You can't on your social media channel, on your e-commerce channel, on your offline and everything, just be consistent. Don't just assume. Don't assume that because your brand is, with a long heritage and a great history, works for the royal family, the Chinese consumer will love you. With sort of international brands, don't be arrogant. We know that Chinese consumer has the spending power, and they do prefer international brands in most of the sort of sectors and cases. But then they're not just say, I have loads of money lying around and happy to just throw it at anything. So you still need to make the effort to try to talk to them, try to connect with them, and try to have a meaningful sort of relationship with the consumers.
Does being patient mean you really have to build your brand in China? And just because it worked outside of China doesn't necessarily mean it will work in China? Is that what it means? Being
patient is just a lot of brands know that the opportunity is there in China. The market is huge, and every day we'll read reports about how much Chinese consumers are spending on XYZ. So a lot of brands, I personally worked with many brands, they just like, oh, I see the Chinese consumers spend a lot on this category. So our goal is to go to China, and then within 1 year, we want to achieve X million revenue. Mm-hmm. It of course, it could be possible, but a lot of the time, it takes a lot of effort and also a lot of investment. For any new brands entering the market, first of all, you need to figure out a way that from a business point of view that would work for the brand, with your investment, with your business goals, and then work out, your branding, your marketing and everything. So you need time to find your target consumer, to understand them, and to really just pinpoint where they are and what they do, what they like, etc. So all of the things takes time.
Can you provide some examples that branding have worked well in China and have perhaps failed in China?
Well, I think a lot of the big brands, global brands, actually, if you think about Coca-Cola and McDonald's, they actually do I think that in terms of their branding, they work very well in China. They could have gone into China and say, taste authentic American whatever food, but they didn't. They really adapted the branding in China, so make it really sort of relevant to the consumer in China. I think that's actually, especially for a brand that big, is actually quite clever and impressive that they can do that. And also, I think most of the major luxury fashion brands have been doing very well, sort of on that front as well. They're in China. They definitely have this sort of relevance to the Chinese consumer. They make effort to create an relevance, but then without changing the brand.
Why do you think some brands really succeed, and why do you think some brands just cannot adapt no matter how much money they put in?
I want to say a major e-commerce, fashion e-commerce website in the UK. In the UK, I think the consumers are very clear about what their website is. what kind of person would shop there. They do have a very clear brand vision, a brand sort of identity. But I think the problem is when they went to China, I think many years ago, I think they're still trying, they couldn't figure out who the equivalent of the consumer in the UK, the equivalent of them in China. They can't figure out who they are. Or maybe they did, but they didn't really adapt, like understand those consumers in China clearly in terms of what they need and what they want, what they like and everything. I mean, I've seen brands going to China with a whole website and different, like, to stay the same at all. I mean, in some case it would work, but then it's like you need to have tons of research and insights to support that.
Lastly, and I always end the same question with every single interview, is what mistakes have you made?
So many.
that you have experienced in your Chinese business journey that you can share with our viewers?
I remember, so I used to work with Bloomingdales, the shopping mall in the States, for the China marketing. So the brief to, just to target Chinese consumer in China. And I remember going over there for Chinese New Year, around Chinese New Year, to support the Chinese New Year's marketing campaign. And I went in and I saw all the decorations in the flagship store. It's all like red, dragon, gold. And so I saw that, I was like, wait, that's really not China. Like, that's so cliche. And I remember talking to the head of my client about that. And he told me, like, well, it's for the in-store marketing activity. It's really it was targeted at the Chinese community in the US, in New York. And then there's like really sort of him is, oh, right. And the difference, because like without the experience or without anyone telling me that the difference between the Chinese community overseas and a Chinese consumer back in China. So yeah, it really is. Now having been in the UK for 10 years, every time around Chinese New Year, if I'm in the UK, all I want is red and golden dragons. It's like there's something that I miss, and like you don't necessarily see those every day, so you just want to go for the cliches. Yeah.
I guess for every brand, you just really have to know who your target audience are. It doesn't matter if it's Chinese consumers from China or Chinese consumers within your local area. It's the mentality is all different.
Yeah.
We've learned so much today about branding strategy. And if anyone wants to learn more about brand strategy into China and how to create a consistent voicing of brand strategy, we will put Half a World's link down in our blurb, as well as Yishu's LinkedIn profile if you want to get in touch with her. Thanks, Yishu.
No problem. Thank you. It's lovely talking to you.